Alright, hey guys, welcome to 10.4 Pre-algebra. We're talking about circumference and area of a circle. Alright, so we need to get some definitions down before we really get started. Circle. I think, well, I know what a circle is, Mr. Strubar. Well, okay, good. That's great. We have a good, basic knowledge of a circle. But did you know that technically a circle is all points in a plane that are the same distance from a fixed point in the center? Okay, so that is really important because what it tells us is that a circle is actually made up of a bunch of points. Obviously there's, an infinite amount more that are equidistant from the center. Okay, so what's the radius though? Well, it's the distance between the center and any other point on the circle. Okay, so what I'm going to draw here, that is not the radius. Okay, the radius must go from the center all the way to the outside or the circumference of the circle. How about the diameter? Well, the diameter of a circle is the distance that's just across the circle through the center. Okay, so if you want to go from that point to that point, if you draw it there and it passes through the center, you've drawn a diameter. But if you want to go from that point to that point there and you draw it, but it doesn't go through the center, you haven't drawn a diameter. Okay. The diameter is also going to be the longest distance from one point on a circle to the other point, another point on the circle. Circumference is just the distance around the circle, okay, sometimes known as the perimeter of the circle, but if you start at that point and go all the way around, measure and come back there, you found the circumference. And lastly, we're going to talk about pi. Well, pi we often hear as the number 3.14, but that's just a very, very rounded version of pi. Okay, pi is actually an infinite number. Okay, it does not end, or there hasn't been an end found by mathematicians much smarter than myself or computers. If you plug pi into your calculator, or if you hit the pi button, it will give you 3.141592654. Okay, so we use that when calculating some different things with circles. Okay, but also I want you to know that pi is actually the circumference of a circle divided by that same circle's diameter. Okay, it's not any circumference divided by any diameter. You can find pi when talking about one specific circle. Okay, so when you take a circle's circumference and divide that by the diameter, you will get this in your calculator. All right, so let's go back to circumference quickly, okay? So circumference, we said, was the distance around a circle. All right, and we find circumference, okay, by taking pi times diameter. I need to make that pi a little bigger, don't I? Pi times the diameter, okay? Circumference equals pi times the diameter. So let's do that. Let's see. Let's say there's a circle out there, and its diameter is, we'll say 6.5 centimeters. And we want to know the circumference. How do you find the circumference? Well, again, we said circumference equals pi times the diameter. So we're going to do C equals pi times 6.5. And what you would do in your calculator is you're going to hit the pi button, which is second, and then the little caret button. All right, it's got a little blue pi sign. It's also the H button if you were typing in letters. Okay, so I do pi times 6.5, just like it reads. And what I end up getting is 20.4203, if I round it, 5, if I rounded then I'd say 2, okay, centimeters. So easy as that. All right, so now let's go back up to radius. Let's talk about radius, okay? So we said the radius was the distance between the center and any other point on the circle, okay? But did you know that the radius is actually equal to half of the diameter? Which makes sense, right? The diameter is that whole distance. Then the radius is just going to be that little part right there. All right, so let's say we're given a circle. My circles are not great. And they say the circumference is equal to 70 inches. Okay, so that's the distance around the circle, 70 inches. And what they want us to do is find the radius. Well, how do we do that? Well, the only formula we've learned so far is c equals pi times diameter. There's no r in there anywhere, so how could we find the radius? Well, let's think about that. C equals pi times diameter. What did we say about the diameter? Well, we said it was half the radius. Okay, or we could say that a diameter is made up of a radius plus another radius. So I'm going to rewrite our formula to be c equals pi times not diameter, but 2 times the radius. Okay, because 2 radii, or radii, I think is radii plural, 2 of the radiuses equal 1 diameter. So these are saying the same thing. So now, can we find the radius? Well, let's see. What did they give us? They said the circumference was 70 inches. So let's plug that in there. 70 equals pi times 2 times r. Oops, that's supposed to be a 2. Well, let's see. How would I do that? Well, let's think about this. What are we trying to do? We're trying to get r by itself, right? So let's put r over there, or I'm sorry, down a little over further. We want r to equal something, right? That's our end goal. So we have pi and 2 over here being multiplied. Well, it's kind of an issue, right? Sort of, but here's what I would do, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to evaluate that part right there. Okay, so I'm going to take pi, my calculator, times 2, and that equals, I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, 6.28. Now we have times r, and again that equals 70. So how do we solve for r? Well, now all we have to do is divide by 6.28, because 6.28 is being multiplied. Divide by 6.28, and 70 divided by 6.28 ends up getting you 11.14 approximately. Okay, so we would say r equals, those have canceled, r equals 11.14. Okay, and we were talking about inches. So easy as that, all right? All right, so I want you to pause the video and try those two. Okay, play the video when you're done, see how you do. All right, the diameter of a circle is 28 feet. We need to find its circumference, okay? Well, what formula do we know that has circumference and diameter in it? Well, c equals pi times diameter, right? And we're finding the circumference, so that's good. We already have the one variable by itself that we need to be by itself. So now I'm just going to take pi times 28. And when you do that, what you get is c to equal 87.9, we'll round to the nearest hundredth, 96, and we're talking about feet. There, okay, 87.96 feet. Now how about this one down here though? The radius of a circle is 14 feet. Well, let's think. Up here, the diameter of the circle was 28, right? Well, here they're saying there's a circle, and the radius is 14. Well, do we have a formula that has circumference and radius in it? Kind of. Yeah, we could say c equals pi times 2 times the radius. But, you know, we actually know the radius, so I'll just say, okay, c is now going to equal pi times 2 times 14. But what do we notice? If I have 2 of the radius, and the radius is 14, then that's going to be 28, which is also the diameter. Because if I took the radius times 2, or I looked and said, okay, radius, that radius there is half my diameter. If I put in another radius there and connect through the center, now I have 28. This one right here is exactly the same as this one here. Okay, so now we have c equals pi times 28, which is what we had last time up here. And so now we get c equals 87 point, again, rounding 96 feet. All right, so now we'll talk about area of a circle. How do you find the area of a circle? Well, the area of a circle is found by taking pi times the radius squared. So that means you're going to need to know what that distance right there is. Okay, the radius if you're going to find the area. Okay, so let's say you know, there's a circle and it has a radius of 4 feet, and we want to find the area. What would we do? Well, we know the formula for area of a circle. That is A equals pi r squared. Just came from up there, right? So I'm going to take A, that equals pi times what is r? Well, they told us r is the radius and it's 4 feet, so I'm going to take 4 squared. Simplifying it down even further, we get pi times 16. And when you take pi times 16, what you end up getting is A equals, rounded to the nearest tenth, we'll say 50.3 feet. All right, there you go, easy as that. But we can also use that same formula to find the radius. Okay, so let's go to number 11. Let's say the area of a circle is 98 square feet. What is the radius? And then how about also, what is the diameter? Why don't you take a minute, and I want you to pause the video and I want you to work on this one, okay? The area of the circle is 98 feet. Find the radius and then find the diameter. See if you can get it. All right, so what I would do is, okay, area of a circle. I'm going to write that formula first. Whenever I see area of a circle, I'm going to write that. A equals pi r squared. Okay, so now I got to ask myself, what do I know? Well, I know the area is 98 feet squared. The question is, how do I get there? Well, we know that the formula is 98 is going to equal pi times the radius squared. Well, I don't know the radius, and so I just write r squared again. So what should I do here? Well, what's the goal? Right? We're trying to find the radius, and the radius is denoted by the little letter r. So I want r to be by itself and equal to something. Okay. So what is getting in the way of that happening? Well, pi is being multiplied by r. R is also being taken to the second power. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to divide by pi and divide by pi. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, I want you to just hang tight with me, okay? These are going to cancel there. Anything over itself, including pi over pi, is 1, or I could say it cancels. So I'm left with r squared equals, and what I'm going to do next is a little different. I'm actually not going to take 98 and divide it by pi. I'm just going to rewrite 98 over pi. Okay. Now I could do that, and in fact, if I did that, 98 divided by pi would get you approximately 31.2. Okay, but I'm trying to be as accurate and precise as possible, so I'm just going to leave it in this form, and that's okay, because here's what I'm going to do next. I got to get r by itself, but currently it's being taken to the second power. So we are going to square root both sides. Now again, why do I do that? Well, like we learned with square roots, it's to get that squared out of there, because a squared inside of a square root cancels, leaving you with just r, which is what we want. So now I'm going to take the square root of 98 divided by pi. And this is what it should look like in your calculator, okay? It should look like a little square root sign, and then it's going to give you a parentheses. 98, you're going to do divided by pi. And then you're going to end the parentheses, and you're going to hit enter. And when you do that, you're going to get 5.585191926, so on and so forth. It's just round to the nearest hundredth. So I'll round to that place. That's going to round up to a 9. So we'll be left with 5.59, and we were talking about feet here. And that's the radius. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys in this video. I look forward to seeing you in class.